first felony offender offenses. Let's see. First-degree murder and cruelty to juveniles. Sentenced to a total of 70 years. Parole date March 4th, 2014. Good time June 19, 2024. Full term November 18, 2058. Is this information correct, Ms. Bell?
First, it's not first, it's the first degree murder.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes, yes, it is.
Good morning, Ms. Bell. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
My name is Bonnie Jackson. Your case has been assigned to me, and so I'll start the questioning. How old are you, Ms. Bell?
I'm 50 years old.
And how much time have you served on your sentence?
The total sentencing that I have served is actually 34 years.
So how old were you when this crime occurred?
I was 17 years of age.
You're charged, you're serving time for attempted first-degree murder and 2 counts of cruelty to a juvenile. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did all of these charges relate to the same victim?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that McKinley Bell?
Yes, ma'am.
How old was McKinley when this occurred?
McKinley was 2 months old.
Okay. Would you tell us a little bit about what happened, Ms. Bell?
At that time, I was 17 years old. I was staying with my mother. Her name was Sadie Bell. She's no longer living. She is deceased. She was my co-defendant. I was a young lady having a baby, having a baby. And at that time.
So what happened? Just tell me what happened to McKinley.
What happened with McKinley is that McKinley was, when I had McKinley, he was born 6 months and 12 ounces, but he was a small baby. So one morning I woke up to feed my baby and he didn't look right. So I immediately asked my mama what's going on, and by me having a second child, I didn't have no understanding about my child and the situation. So
what do you mean by you're having a second child?
My first son is Dominique Jamal Bell McCray Robinson. He's no longer living. He is deceased. He died from leukemia and HIV.
How old were you when you had him?
When I had my first son, I was 16 years old.
All right, so you had some experience with the child.
Yes, ma'am.
So tell me what happened to McKinley.
Well, McKinley had to be rushed to the hospital.
Why?
Because I didn't know how to do CPR on a.
Why did he need CPR?
Because he had stopped breathing.
Why did he stop? I know this is hard to talk about, Miss Bell, but now's the time to be honest about the situation.
Yes,
all right?
Yes, ma'am.
Because you're serving time 50 years for attempted murder.
Yes, ma'am.
All right?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us what happened to McKinley.
Okay, what happened with McKinley is that I woke up that morning to feed my son. He didn't look right. Like I was saying.
He didn't look right how, Miss Bell? Were there any injuries inflicted on McKinley?
No, ma'am. I never did abuse neither one of my children.
Did McKinley die?
McKinley died in foster care. I was in jail when McKinley passed away.
And how long after you were in jail did he pass away?
I stayed in jail the whole time I was arrested.
I understand, but you got arrested and McKinley went into foster care. How long had he been in foster care before he passed away?
Since the day of my arrest.
Which was when, Miss,
I got arrested November the 12th of 1990.
and when did he die?
He died February the 6th of 1991.
Okay, and what did he die from?
He died from the complication from the surgery, because when I brought him to Rapides Regional Medical Center in a police car with the lady named Miss Annie Mae Sanders, who was doing the CPR on my son, McKinley Bell, they found 3 holes in his stomach on the right side.
And
And the doctor,
how would that lead to you being convicted of attempted murder and 2 counts of cruelty to a juvenile?
how would that lead to me? Because when I went to Rapides Regional Medical Center to find out what was going on with my child, the doctor that was on call, her name was Dr. Deborah Miles. And by me being an African American, she already started building a case with me. Well, towards me.
Miss Bell, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're not helping yourself. You really are not helping yourself with me. You don't get charged with attempted murder and cruelty to a juvenile, 2 counts, unless there were extensive injuries to that baby that were the result of some physical force or violence against him. And for you to say that, oh, the only reason I'm here is because I'm an African American and they started building a case, I don't think helps you very much. Not with me. I'll be honest with you. Now, today is your day to be honest, and I don't think you're being honest. And if you're not honest, then I don't know how you can accept responsibility and be rehabilitated when you are going to such great lengths to not tell the truth about what happened to McKinley. And it may be difficult for you to talk about, but today is the day to be honest. And I'm going to give you another opportunity to tell us what happened to McKinley.
I do take responsibility.
What? For what, Miss?
I do take responsibility in a situation by my son, McKinley Dwayne Bell. I was not, I take responsible about my child, McKinley Dwayne Bell. What happened to my son, McKinley Dwayne Bell? I take responsibility.
What happened to him that you were taking responsibility for?
Because by me being a young mother, I didn't know how to raise a child.
And so, how did that cause him to die or be injured?
Because I just take responsibility about my.
I see we're not going to make any progress here, Ms. Bell. I'm going to tell you, your inability to accept responsibility and acknowledge what happened to that child is really going to, be a hard thing for me to overcome. I don't know about the other members of the panel, but it's going to be a really, really hard thing for me to overcome. All right? So, you've been in prison about 34 years, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You have a good time date of June 19th of 24. So you have a date that you're going to be released regardless of anything that this committee does today. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
So in a little over 2 years, you're going to get out regardless. I see that you lost 135 days of good time, although you got 105 of those days back. How did you lose 135 days of good time?
How did I lose 135? Because I had got into trouble at the place that I was when
What year was that?
that was in 2017. And when we all was shipped to Tallulah because of the flood.
Did you lose all 135 days from a single write-up?
I lost 30 days for a fighting report in Tallulah.
Okay, what about the other 105 days? Because the total loss was 135.
Oh, okay. I had a previous report, a report that I received
Mhm.
for general behavior 30J in 2003.
What about December 3rd of 2019? Did you receive a write-up for fighting in defiance?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Tell us what happened in that incident.
The report that I received for fighting defiance, I had a fight with my bunkie, and her name is Kadisha Johnson.
Mhm.
And
How did you all
Yeah.
end up fighting?
because she had a towel hanging on my bed, and I asked her to remove the towel off my bed, which I was on the top bunk at that time.
And then
And
what happened?
we started fighting. But
Okay.
before that, I had asked to be moved.
Mhm.
I asked to be moved. I asked for help. I asked to be moved from out the area to another dorm. But I never did get the help, so things had got out of hand and we just had a fight.
Okay.
And as for the defiance, when the security went to break up the fight, I didn't mean to hit the security. That's what the defiance come in at with the security.
And how much good time did you lose for that incident in 2019?
I didn't lose no good time on that report. I received 10 days isolation, 2 weeks wrecking yard, and it's $8.
For 2 weeks. Restitution for the fight.
I had to pay restitution for the fight, which was $8.
Okay. And do you have a job at the prison right
Yes,
now?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I work on the inner yard.
What do you do?
I clean the showers.
Okay. What other jobs have you had?
I used to be a floor worker. I used to work in the garment factory. I worked in microfilm. I did housekeeping. I used to work in visitation, and I used to do detail cleaning the vans.
Okay. I see that you had some certifications in furniture repair and restoration and cabinet making. Is that correct?
I have my certification in cabinetry making, crew leadership, and I have my OSHA 30. I have my hospice palliative care certification. I also have a certification as a HIV/AIDS peer mentor.
Okay, so you didn't get one for furniture
I
repair?
graduated from furniture restoration, which is upholstery.
All right. Have you used any of those skills at a job at the prison?
Since I graduated from upholstery, no ma'am, and I have yet to have an opportunity to use those type of skills.
What about cabinet making?
Cabinetry making was added input into furniture restoration.
I
It's a newer class that just started.
I see. I see you've done a number of programs, substance abuse, education, Celebrate Recovery. You were a Celebrate Recovery mentor, Living in Balance 1 and 2, Anger Management in 2016. But unfortunately, you didn't use those skills in 2019 when you got the write-up for fighting.
Well, Miss Bonnie,
Mm-hmm.
I want to elaborate on that.
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, but I know how to deal with my anger management issues because anger is part of my emotion. But what I learned at that time when I had the fight, I had to sit down and I had to think after the situation had happened. And what I learned is that it's okay for me to utilize my anger in a good way, not in a bad way, not to react, but to think and choose to walk away to be a better person.
Well, it's easy to absorb those principles when you're sitting in a classroom setting. But the test is, okay, you sit in, you get the information, and then when you have a real life occasion to use those skills, you kind of reverted back to letting your emotions get the better of you instead of remembering those tools that you had learned in your anger management class. It's easy in a classroom to know something, but the test is, okay, I get into a disagreement with my bunkmate. How am I going to use those skills? And, you didn't use them, and that's kind of concerning. It's kind of concerning. So of all the programs that you've taken, Ms. Bell, which ones do you think have helped you the most?
Which one that has helped me the most?
Mm-hmm.
I would say anger management. I would say reentry. I would also say substance abuse, living in balance 1 and 2.
Okay, let me
Oh.
ask you this. You were very young when you came to prison. Were you involved in drug or alcohol use?
No, drugs was not my choice. It was alcohol.
And when did you start drinking? How old were you when you started drinking?
I started drinking when I was 14 years old because of my dad had passed away.
Okay. And how much did you drink on a regular basis?
I only would drink on the weekends.
Okay, but when you did drink on the weekends, how much would you drink?
I would drink like 40 ounces of beer.
A day or over the course of the whole weekend?
It would be 40 ounces of beer Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
So it would take you Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to complete the 40s, or you'd have 2 40s each day? I'm trying to understand how much you would do.
40 ounces each day.
Okay, all right. So what did you learn in your substance abuse classes?
What I learned in my substance abuse class is that you don't abuse the substance. You have to sit down and talk about the substance that you're dealing with, the substance that you're drinking, or the substance that you're using, because you can literally abuse the substance that you're using.
Let me ask you this. What kind of, you did living in balance. What else did you take related to substance abuse? You did Celebrate Recovery. Tell me about that.
Celebrate Recovery is the 12-step programs. The first step is denial. You have to admit that you're in denial.
Okay, well, let's stop right there. Are you an alcoholic?
Yes, ma'am, I am an alcoholic, but I am recovering through my alcoholic addiction.
And what does that look like on the outside? On the outside of the prison?
How would it look like for me on the outside of the prison?
To be a recovering alcoholic.
I would be able to continue my steps by going participating in my AA meetings and Celebrate Recovery meetings as well.
So how long do you think you need to go to AA or Celebrate Recovery?
Well, how how long will it take for me to continue in going into the meetings to make the steps work? Because it's a 12-step program.
Well, okay, but tell me in your mind, when you get out, if you get out, well, you will get out in 24, what do you think it's going to take for you to maintain your sobriety?
Long as I attend my meetings faithfully weekly with the help of a mentor.
Okay, and you think that's something you're going to need to do for 6 months, a year, 2 years? Tell me about that.
I would say 2 years.
Okay, why 2 years?
2 years, because when you work in your sobriety steps, it's a day by day base.
Mhm.
It's step by step. You have to continue to work your steps. I say 2 years. It may not be 2 years. It may take 5 years. It may be forever. But it's a step by step base. You like I said, you have 12 steps. You have the first step is denial. Your second step is blame.
I know the steps, but I'm just trying to figure out, how you're going to use those steps when you get out.
How I will use the steps is by reaching out, working my steps for myself and for others as well.
What is your transition plan? If you were to be released, tell us, what are you planning to do? Where would you live? What kind of work would you do?
My transitional plan, I applied for parole project. I would like to transition to parole project. My goal is to get a job, reach out to younger people, help younger people, like
No. I want specifics now, Miss Bell. That everybody says they want to reach out and help younger people. That's what everybody says. I'm not really that interested in that. I'm interested in, one, where are you going to live?
okay, I applied to go to parole project. I had an interview with the lady named Miss Ashley at Parole Project.
Mhm,
It's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
mhm.
I want to transition there so I can be able to transition back into society. So I can
Okay,
be,
but obviously, but you can't live with the parole project forever. So what's your long-term, where are you from, Miss Bell?
I'm from Alexandria, Louisiana.
Plan to go back to Alexandria.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going back to Alexandria once I finish my transitional thing at parole project. But I also want to go back to Alexandria to live with my parents, Mr. and Mrs. William King, who is my godparents. Because my mom is deceased and my dad is deceased as well. And both of my children are deceased.
Okay, and tell me, do you have any definite work plans?
Yes, ma'am. My definite work plan is to start working in an upholstery shop, working at a restaurant. I want to be able to go.
Okay, wait. That's a definite plan, isn't maybe a upholstery shop, maybe a restaurant. That's not, have you been in contact with anyone who has said that they would provide you employment?
Yes, ma'am. Miss Ella King and Mr. William King, they have a real estate business. It's the King Real Estate. They have do old houses. They renovate houses. They add on to houses.
And what would you do for them?
I will be able to utilize my certification skills for cabinetry making, help renovate the houses, help set up the houses, anything that needs to be done when it's pertaining to the house.
Okay. And that's in Alexandria?
Yes, ma'am.
And tell me some of the activities, not the classes, but some of the activity you've been involved with. Clubs, community service work, organizations.
The clubs that I have been involved with from the past was Toastmasters, the Jazzy JCs, which is a club that does community work on the outside as well on the inside. I was part of the culinary.
What kind of community service work have you done with them?
I did write up in the club. You write about a speech. Yeah, it's like an essay. Toastmasters is like,
I understand okay, I'm asking about community service, things you've done to help other inmates, things you've done to help outside the prison.
I only did things on the inside of the prison, helping other inmates in the JCs.
I mean, okay, and what y'all do for other inmates?
For the other inmates, we have this thing that we used to do for the senior citizen at LCW, like spend time with the elderly people, do like play cards, play spades, take them to church, take them to the beauty shop, make sure they get their hair done and stuff like that.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, Ms. Bell. I don't have any other questions of any of my colleagues. Oh, can I speak to the warden or whoever's in the room with Ms. Bell to find out what you all have to say about her?
Hey, good morning, Ms. Jackson. How are you?
Good morning.
Yes, I think Ms. Bell kind of went over a good bit. She definitely does have quite a vast volume of her certificates and educational background. I was actually speaking with Dr. Sharkey, and she said she had been was at the first in Celebrate Recovery, one of the mentors in that. So that was a really big success for her. So, and she hasn't had any write-ups since 2019.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the room who has anything to offer on her behalf?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Mr. White.
Ms. Jackson. Ms. Bell, I have a couple of questions. You indicated that you were an alcoholic and you had a drinking problem. Was drinking involved on the day involving your arrest and when your son was taken to the hospital? Were you drinking then?
No, sir, no, not at the particular time.
All right.
No, sir.
Let me ask you a question. Did you go to trial or did you plead guilty?
When I went to jail, I was upon a public defender. His name was Charles Scott. The public defender was not, Charles Scott, the public defender was not doing anything.
Well, my question to you is, did you go to trial or did you plead guilty? Then you can explain why you did what, but did
Okay.
you go to trial or did you plead guilty?
No, sir, I didn't go to trial. And I didn't have a trial. I had a hearing by judge, trial by judge. I pled guilty on a plea bargain.
Okay. Now, your plea bargain was for 70 years. That's a long sentence. I mean, that's a maximum on the attempted murder and 10 years consecutive on each charge. I, like Judge Jackson, am curious as to what happened. I mean, you're not telling us what happened. You don't go to jail for 70 years because your son had a condition that you couldn't control. You were accused of killing your son, attempting to kill your son. You indicated there were 2 holes in his stomach. What does that mean, 2 holes in his stomach? Was he stabbed? Was there some puncture to him or what? We're trying to figure out what it is you did that caused you to go to jail for 70 years and whether or not you've accepted responsibility for that. So you need to tell us what happened to your son.
Mr. Tony, I take full responsibility.
Well, I hear that. But I
About
need to know. Now, if you don't know, that's one thing. If you put it out of your mind because it's too painful to remember, that's one thing. But you pled guilty. What did the police say you did?
I pled guilty by sanity commission hearing. I had a sanity commission hearing. And I take full responsibility. And when I mentioned about the 3 holes in his stomach, the 3 holes in his stomach was found inside of his stomach. I never punctured my son. I never abused my son. I never abused neither one of my children. But I take the full responsibility of what happened with my child. I can't bring him back. I had to accept the fact that he was just, that's the way he was born.
Well, Ms. Bell, for some reason, we don't have all of your court records. So I'm trying to figure out what happened. Now, you're saying something about a sanity commission. Did you plead not guilty by reason of insanity? Were you found not guilty by reason of insanity? I don't understand that.
Okay, when I said Senate Commission hearing, the first attorney I had, Charles Scott, I fired Charles Scott in front of the Honorable Judge Lewis O. Love. Okay, Lewis O. Love had to appoint me an attorney. Matter of fact, I was appointed 2 lawyers. The first lawyer name was Glenn Catella and Andy Van Dyke, because the prosecutor who was prosecuting the case was Sherry Lane. She was aiming for the death penalty at that time.
Okay.
So Glenn Catella and Anna Van Dyke met with me at Rapides Parish Jail, and they wanted to go for the Senate Commission hearing. I had to take a test to see was I competent enough to stand trial. That's where the Senate Commission come in, because of the death penalty clause.
And they found you competent to stand trial?
Sir,
And they found you competent to stand trial?
I kept going back and forth to court.
I understand, but you ultimately pled guilty to the charges.
Yes, sir.
You can't tell us what they claimed you did?
When I brought my baby to the hospital, the doctor that was on call, which is Dr. Myers, who examined McKenna Dwayne Bell, she said that the child was underweight. This looked like the child had been starved. That's what she was saying, because when I brought the child to the hospital with Annie Mae Sanders, along with the police officer, I couldn't go into the area where they was doing the thing on my child. So therefore, I don't know what happened at the hospital in the room. I had to stay seated in the emergency room.
Ms. Bell, you mentioned to Judge Jackson earlier that McKinley was different than Dominique. Does that mean he had more issues or problems or physical problems that you didn't know how to deal with? What did that mean?
Okay, when I say my son, McKinley was different from Dominique, I would say McKinley was a special needs baby, because I feel at the time, I think McKinley either was born with a birth defect because of the holes in his stomach. Because I can sit here and continue to explain to y'all about my child, because I want to know, how did he get the 3 holes in his stomach? I never punctured my child. I never abused my children. I was a good parent to my children, but I tried my best to raise both of my children, because I was a young lady. I'm African-American. I got judged because of my color, because of my race.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Is
Can
there,
I say something?
Therese?
Can I say
Therese,
something, Mr. Tony?
you're gonna get an opportunity. Yes, ma'am, you can say anything you'd like.
That day when I went to court, it was 2 plea bargains. One was for life and one was for a 70-year sentence. Now, when I get to court, the prosecutor, Sherry Lane, added the 2 counts accused to a juvenile that day when I went to court. And that's how I know with the 70-year sentence.
All right, I understand the plea bargaining situation, and I understand you were potentially facing a death penalty. I do understand all of that. So thank you. Is there anyone else, Ms. Teresa? Do we have any speakers?
Yes, sir. I have 3 who are on the phone over my side. First, we will hear from Reverend Otis Brown, who's a pastor who's here in support.
Okay.
Reverend
Reverend
Brown, you can start.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. May I speak now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, first giving honor to God. I want to thank the parole board for allowing us to come for this opportunity. I understand that a crime was committed, but we are here about a second chance. We're here to support her, to let her know that she has family and loved ones. We are here to help her to rebuild her life. She started when she was a young person. She made mistakes. A life was taken, and we understand. But we want to let her know that we believe in second chances. We believe in helping her rebuild her life and letting the parole board know that we're going to support her spiritually, financially, in any way we can. We know that she still needs help. And so we're going to try to work with her, to work through the issues that she does have in her life. You know, we all have issues, and she'll continue to have issues. Her sobriety, her anger, and all of those things need to be dealt with. And we will help her in those things. We will not abandon her. We will not leave her alone. We will work with her and support her in any way that we can as a church and as a pastor. We will help her rebuild her life. Amen. So try to get her on the road, the right road, to where she needs to be. So we are here to let her know and to let you know that we are here with her 100% to support her and help her through those difficult times. She has a lot of work. Yes, she has a lot of work that needs to be done. And it's going to take a lifetime for all of this, for her, the rest of her life. She'll be working this out. But I want to let you know today that we're going to be with her every step of the way, to work with her on all our issues. Anyone that we can help and support her, we will do our best. So I thank you for this opportunity, and I pray in the name of Jesus that you will just have mercy on her today. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Reverend. Now we will hear from Miss Ella King, godmother.
Good morning to the parole board. I am here. I'm Mary Godmother. And I've been seeing Dr. Mary ever since Mary's mother died. Mary doesn't have anybody here that's living that's seeing after her. So I took it upon myself to been saying about Mary since 2012. Mary have come a long ways. She have done everything that, she said she told me she was going to do. The thing of it, when she get out, I'm here for her. I have a house where she will be able to live. I have a job for her that we're in business. And she immediately goes to work. We're trying to get her out early because she's 50 years old. The longer she stay in there, the longer it's going to take for us to get her back. I'm elderly, and so is her father. And we would like for her to come out right now when we get a chance, to help her. People dying every day, things happening every day. We don't know how long we're going to be here. So, and we are only family. We are our only family, y'all. And if we wasn't dying, she don't have nobody. And we just hope that y'all take pity on today and see if I get no out of there. We're going to take care of her. She's going to be okay. She's not going to go in there. She's young, but that all that happened to her. She didn't understand none of those procedures, y'all. She was young. She didn't understand all this stuff with the judicial system. She just think that they say death to her and all that stuff. She gonna say what she had to say because she don't understand. She didn't understand. If you don't understand, she didn't understand. But she done lived long enough to know that what she got to do there and when she get out. I think she done made a good transition. She went to school and she'll try to help herself. And I'm asking you all to please help her today if you can. Y'all got her now to get out. I got her. We got her, you all. Help her, please. Let her go. Please let her go. And we'll be appreciative. And I thank God for you. And I pray that God put it on your heart. And y'all let her go. We'll take care of her. I thank you so much for listening to us. You didn't have to do it, but I thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Miss King. Now we will hear from Mr. William King, godfather.
Okay, just a minute.
Good morning. My name is William King, and I'm here to speak in behalf of my goddaughter, Mary. I thank y'all for allowing us to speak in support of her. I heard some of the questions y'all did ask her. When she get out, she will have a job because we have rent property. And for some of the things that she said she took up, would be a good thing to have her here. As my wife said, we are getting help. And I ask that y'all let her out because she got a support system. We are deacons and deaconess in church, and we will make sure she try to keep on the right track. If you let her out now, when almost 51 years old. She'll have a chance, because she went into the prison system very young. She'll have a chance to be an asset to society. And we are asking you and praying that you let her out from that matter so she can get her life back together and help us along the way. Right now, we are young enough that we have support to help her and give her a job so she can get out. She has taken up good skills that she will be an asset to society. Because a lot of your jobs now are in maintenance and whatnot. Please, sir, just have mercy on her and let her out and let us support her a while instead of the state supporting her. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. King. Now we will hear from our last participant, Ms. Ashley Dowden from Louisiana Pro Project.
Good morning. This is Ashley Dowden, client advocate for Louisiana Parole Project. If the board grants Ms. Bell's parole this morning, I would like you to know that our organization is prepared to provide both gender responsive and trauma oriented and responsive tailored programming and services for Ms. Bell. We will make sure that she has a substance abuse evaluation, mental health evaluation, and any follow-up that is recommended. We will ensure that that is in place. In other words, there will be a holistic plan for her long-term care that we will ensure is going to happen before delivering her to her very loving and invested family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
That is all of our speakers. I do see Ms. Jackson has raised her hand.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
Ms. Dowden, I'd like to ask you some questions. You're muted. I know I've become familiar with most of the people associated with Parole Project. I don't think I've met you before. So tell me where you're located and how long you've been involved with the Parole Project.
I've been with Parole Project since January of 2018. I've been working mostly in developing cases before they go to the hearings. I've been an office administrator. I've worked one-on-one with the clients. I do have a social work background.
Has Ms. Bell
in my new position. Yeah.
Has Ms. Bell actually been accepted by the Parole Project as a client of theirs?
Yes, ma'am, we are willing to take her.
Okay, when did that happen? Because normally the Parole Project prepares a packet, they prepare information for us, they have a definite transition plan for where the person is going to live, and I'm not hearing any of that today.
Well, I apologize that that wasn't communicated. There has been a recent huge transition in our office. And so I have developed a plan. I knew that she was going to come stay with us for several weeks. I have the address and contacts.
Where?
In Baton Rouge, in our reentry home with the women on Brightside.
Okay. And how long do you anticipate her staying there?
I think that she would probably need a little bit more time because there's a lot of services that she may or be recommended for. So I want to make sure that her if she has to be on medication that needs to be stabilized, if there is anything that pops up that is a special need, we don't want to gloss over anything. I want to make sure her mental health is addressed.
I'm really uncomfortable because I'm so familiar with the Parole Project, even though I've only been on the board a short period of time. I've seen a number of Parole Project cases and I know what they look like. And I know who appears on behalf of the inmate to advocate for them. We usually get a memo outlining, information about the offender and what their plans for the offender is. And I'm uncomfortable that I'm not seeing any of that. And I don't know who you are because I've never seen you on any of the calls as someone who is actively involved in
She's been with the parole
advocating for
project
the
a long
board.
time, Ms. Jackson.
Okay, I'm just concerned about the lack of a concrete plan. That's my concern.
Well, I do assure you that everything will be documented. We're going to be following it to the T. Again, she will be coming to live with us in our transitional housing. That might be a little bit longer than a traditional client because she does have some needs that are very important to address. We want to make sure that she doesn't have some unaddressed psychological or substance abuse issues that need to be dealt with, trauma that might need to be addressed. So we can want to make sure that her eventual moving with her family is a successful and happy one, and that they have the tools to continue that care.
Well, thank you very much. Again, I'm sorry, but I've never had occasion to talk to you before, so thank you for that input.
I
you.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dowden. Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Ms. Bell, is there anything you'd like to say to the board before we vote?
Yes, I would like to say something. Today, it has been a very decisive day for me because although I've been incarcerated for 34 years, I just want to go home. I just placed myself on the mercy of the parole board to be released to parole project and getting my help that I need to get so I can be able to transition back into society to be a better person. Over the years I have been incarcerated, I have learned from my mistakes, but it also made me a better person. I know I have a long ways to go and I have a long journey ahead of me, but I'm willing to accomplish the things that I need to accomplish to maintain and to be free as well. And like I said, I do take a full responsibility about my child, McKinley Dwayne Bell. I cannot bring him back, but I acknowledge the mistakes that I made because, like I said, I was a baby having babies. You know, when you having children at an early age, children doesn't come with instructions. You have to learn how to raise a child or children by yourself, especially when you're living in a home with your said parent who also had mental issues as well, who was an alcoholic as well. And what I learned from my mom, she was a good person. She's no longer living. She's not here today. But if both of my boys was here today, they would say, please let my mama go home. Let my mama be free. If my mama was here, if my daddy was here, they would say the same thing as well. I thank you for this time, for letting me come today. And all I can say, I just throw myself on the mercy of the parole board.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bell. Is the panel ready to vote, or do we need to move to executive session? Any request or need for that?
I'll move, although we can't go into a breakout room, but I'll move.
Okay.
For executive session.
Mr.
Ready to
Wise?
vote? Okay, I'll go for executive session.
Okay. How are we going to be able to do this?
Please just mute all your microphones and turn off all your cameras. I'll be in touch with you momentarily.
Okay.
Hey, we're not gonna be able to go into a executive session.
Please just mute all your microphones and turn off all your cameras.
They do.
All right. Ms. Bell,
Ma'am.
I told you at the beginning, this was a difficult case for me. And it's not because of what happened to this child, because we've had really difficult crimes that we've had to deal with. And the crime itself, seldom is what causes us to decide one way or the other. But I do have some concerns about you, Ms. Bell, some really serious concerns that make me uncomfortable. One, even though you say you take responsibility, those are just learned words that you've said, because as I listen to you, your whole thing has been blaming others. You blame the hospital for just making assumptions about you. You fired your first attorney. Then you blame the public defender's office for the outcome of your case. You just have this inability to recognize where you're wrong and the mistakes that you've made. And without that recognition, you don't have any guards around you to keep you from doing something else and then blaming it on someone else. It concerns me that you went through anger management and then you got in a fight. You didn't use any of those skills. I'm concerned about your transition plan. I just don't know that there's something in place that's going to keep you out of trouble. And you do have a date in 2024. You are going to get out. But today, I'm just not comfortable with letting you out today. So my vote today is to deny, but encourage you. Maybe you need to take anger management again. Maybe you need to repeat some of these courses so that you internalize it instead of just sitting in a class listening, that you're actually able to use what you're learning. So I want you to keep working, stay out of trouble. And if you're eligible before your good time date to apply again, not get any write-ups. And then just, do a little bit more self-examination. You're not here because of other people's actions. You're here because of something that you did in connection with McKinley. And I want you to be able to deal with that on a level where you don't feel like you have to blame other people. So my vote today is to deny, but to encourage you to keep working.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Wise?
At this time, I'm gonna be voting to deny. I'm gonna tell you why. You have very strong law enforcement opposition. You have an outdate in 2024. You need more programs on responsibilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wise. Ms. Bell, I've listened to you talk and you've heard our questions of you. And I've heard my two colleagues discuss your case. And I do agree with both of them. There is a real concern that I have about your ability not to accept responsibility. You say you accept responsibility, but I'm not really sure you do. I accept the fact that you were very young. I am familiar with a young mother who might have a child who has special needs and not know how to take care of that child. I understand all of those things, but that doesn't mean you're in prison because you're an African American. It doesn't mean you're in prison because your public defenders didn't do the job for you. There are a lot of things that you really need to come to grips with. Perhaps more programs will help. My vote today, you have two votes to deny, so your vote, you're not going to be able to get your parole today. I am on the fence. I would have voted to grant conditionally upon your being accepted by the parole project and submitting to the parole board, to the parole officials, a plan to address those issues. But today you have 2 votes to deny. Your parole has been denied. I'm going to encourage you to take classes as suggested by both Ms. Jackson and Mr. Wise, to maybe come to grips with internally your struggle about not accepting responsibility. And if you have the opportunity to apply before you get out, you're getting out in 24. Unless you mess up in some way. If you have the opportunity to apply again, reapply. Good luck to you, ma'am.
I think this hearing goes on the top of my list for just the most frustration and anger that I have felt watching this hearing. This woman, the way that she handled this hearing, the idea that she actually views herself as the victim, that she showed zero remorse, zero emotion, zero humanity throughout the entire process. And she believes it. She believes that she is the victim. She tries to manipulate her way through the entire hearing. And Judge Jackson, you could tell she was angry. She was angry, and she carried it through to the questioning of the parole project. And I checked her up. She still is on the parole project, but I don't blame Ms. Jackson for the questioning of them. They are a sketchy organization, in my opinion. This hearing took place in 2021. It's 2023 November, so she'll be getting out soon. Can you imagine a 70-year sentence? But she will be getting out soon. And just think about all of the damage and chaos that a woman like that, who takes her 2-month-old son, ends his life, and handles a hearing in this way, calling it him an it throughout the process. He was a small baby, 6.4 pounds when he was born. That's not. First, she tries to like make it seem like it's premature. 6.4 pounds. It's not like the average of, I don't know, 7 or something, but it's not. And she goes, and she starts. She's so unaware of how she comes off to people. She's so oblivious to how ridiculous she sounds. And the idea that even there, was it the warden who was helping her out, trying to give her advice to say that I'm remorseful? Come on. You know, the part about this hearing, it's not just about to rage, right? What I'm doing now, but there's frustration built up in me. It's frustration about the system, frustration about that monsters like this actually exist. And I guess people like the Parole Project that would actually go out on a limb to support them. No, someone like this does not have a right to be out. Someone who takes the life of their little baby, and all these years later claims innocence, blames everyone else, like Miss Jackson laid it out perfectly. To take zero accountability and to show zero remorse. It's called being antisocial, or I think that's the clinical term, but I call it sociopath, psychopath. Someone who cannot feel. Someone who really doesn't care about anyone but themselves. That person is a danger. This was her second child. She starts off, I was just a baby raising a baby. I didn't know what to do. Then it comes out, she's what? She was 17, 18, not much of a baby. It's her second child. And Miss Jackson, like it plugs. So he had to be taken to the hospital. I don't know why. Well, why did he have to be taken to the hospital? Miss Jackson asks her. Oh, well, because I didn't know CPR. It's like, are you really gonna play these games? Can you imagine having to be her roommate or having to even just be associated with her? Well, why did the baby need CPR? And it's like, I don't know. He was small. It's like, well, were you responsible for his death in any way? No, I was in jail when he passed away. Are you kidding me? I mean, she's actually, and she believes it. She believes that she's not responsible. She has talked herself into it. Well, she's like, well, what? Why? Miss Jackson asks, well, how many months did it take before? Oh, well, he died like 2 months after. Oh no, it was complications from the surgery. It wasn't anything I did. It was disturbing. It was disgusting. The doctor said that the child was starved. Well, I wasn't there. They didn't allow me in the hospital room. Can you imagine the situation that you would do this to your own little baby? Oh, that's what she called it. Not it. She called it the child. Oh, the child. And all these years later, you convince yourself, and she shows zero emotion for her baby. All these years later, and you're just blaming every single person. You're taking zero accountability. It's disgusting. And I wish I had documentation. I don't, you could tell the board had nothing. And I give the board a lot of credit on this hearing. Miss Jackson, she didn't just throw her hands in the air. And Mr. Marabella, he didn't just, Miss Jackson did a thorough job, but he came in there and tried to get something out of her. But she just refused, absolutely refused to take any accountability. I'm trying to just, I feel this anxiety, this tenseness inside of me. I wanted to jump through the screen. People like this exist. That's a scary thought. I think what's scarier are the people that want her to be released and want to support her, and seem to be completely blind to what's so clear, to what's so broken about this hearing. I mean, I thought I saw attitude from Ashley with the parole project once the ruling was made. How can you deny her? Scary. But let me take you to one more hearing for today. I haven't seen it yet, but it's highlighted in red by Richard, which usually means it's also an intense case. And we do have transcripts on this one, which we'll review at the end of it. So with that, let's jump in.
classified as a first felony offender, offense, armed robbery. Sentencing date, October 6, 2000. Sentenced to a total of 40 years. Parole date, August 1st, 2021. Good time, May 25th, 2033. Full term, August 9th, 2039. Is this information correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Marabello.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jesselink, my name is Tony Marabella. Your case was assigned to me, so I'll be the first one starting off our interview process with you, okay? Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Jesselink, how old are you, sir?
62,
Okay. And how long have you been in prison on these charges?
22 and a half years today.
Tell me what your role was in this crime. Tell me exactly what you did.
I participated in the crime, but that was actually 6 people were involved in it, and we went in and robbed a lady and took money from her.
Did you know this lady?
I knew her, yes, sir, from through my ex-wife's grandmother.
Did you know that she was 76 years old?
No, sir, I knew she was an elderly woman, but I didn't know what her age was at the time.
Did you realize at the time she had just had open heart surgery?
No, sir, I didn't have any idea of any of those things was wrong.
So you tell me what specifically did you do?
Well, when we went into the house, we walked in and we escorted her into the living room. I kept her set in the chair while another person went in to check out her safe and see if there was any money in there. And then we got what little bit of money, I think it was $1,200 total, and then we left out with it.
You were there with her the whole time while they were in the back?
Yes, sir, and we eventually moved her and walked into the bedroom with her.
So who was it that struck her with a crowbar and beat her unmercifully?
Nobody beat her, sir. Nobody was ever convicted of that, and she even said in her own
I'm not
test-
saying you're convicted of it. I'm saying what she said happened to her. You're telling me that's a lie?
No, sir,
Nobody beat her with a crowbar?
No, sir,
She struggled to try to get out?
No, sir. She was beating me with the broom, and I was holding my hands up like this over my head. And apparently, when she went down with the broom, she struck her hand and it put a small scratch on her forehead.
No. So you were in some sort of altercation with her?
When we first got walked in on the porch, yes, sir, she picked up her broom and went to beating me with the broom.
And so how did you respond to that?
I threw my hands up over my head like that while she was beating me with the broom. And we finally got her calmed down. She set the broom down, and I escorted her through the kitchen to the living room and set her down in the chair. I wrapped her hand with
So you were with her the whole time, that whatever happened to her, you were there with her?
Yes, sir, pretty much.
All right. So tell me what you've been doing while you've been in prison for the last 22 and a half years.
All right, since pre-trial, I had a lot to think about my past life, and I thought about the crime I had committed, violating the rights of an innocent person. And I was very ashamed of myself. I was very embarrassed by it. I knew I had done wrong. I couldn't undo what I had done, but I was very regretful and very remorseful for my actions. So I began church programs after being invited to, and I accepted Christ into my life. And I started renewing my mind with the Word of God all through the years. And in 2001, the warden entrusted me with the job as inmate counsel at Franklin Parish Detention Center. I did that for 8 years and researched and helped other offenders with their litigation. And in the process, it enhanced my vocabulary, it broadened my mind with a lot of knowledge and understanding. I attended many church programs. I played guitar and sang every Sunday night in church. And in 2009, the sheriff promoted me to establish and administer the GED program there at Franklin Parish. And so after receiving criteria from the education department, I selected one other offender at his request, and we administered the GED program for a little over 3 years and helped prepare other offenders to get their GED because I had gotten mine before they ever started the program there. And we sent 56 students to take the test, and all 56 passed with the exception of 4 that only had to retake one subject. And after that, the warden had recommended that I move on into DOC to further myself with other programs and other possibilities of transformation in my life. And so I ended up here at David Wade, and I went through VOTEC and graduated carpentry. I've attended church and done a lot of faith-based programming here. I facilitated and coordinated several programs for Chaplain Atkins since I've been here. I mentored a lot of the offenders here at different times. I was like 2 years on the work assignment after VOTEC. And then I went to work for Miss Sherman in the education building. I've worked there for approximately 5 years. I've graduated Kairos Navigator several times, Celebrate Recovery. I've done anger management, core curriculum, victims awareness, and I just recently completed Living in Balance program. So
You did finish Living in Balance. I saw where on your record you were enrolled in it. You finished that program as well?
I finished it here the other day on my second book. I finished it actually a month early, but we got it taken care of. Yes, and they told me that I would receive credit and certificate probably in early March on that.
Okay. So tell me, of all the programs you've taken while you've been here, what has been the one that's been most important to you or helped you the most?
Well, I'm gonna say that they all have, sir, but the one that sticks out to me most is victims awareness. Because
Tell me about that.
I never understood the actual consequences of my action, the ripple effect that it would have over not only the victim's life, but her family, her friends, her community, in the same way within my life, how it affected my family, my children, my parents. And it was just an awesome program. And Miss Robinson was the one that facilitated the program. And I really enjoyed what she had taught within that program.
How old were you when you committed this crime?
39 years old, sir, but I would like for you to take into consideration that I only had an 8th grade education. I had a limited vocabulary, and I still believe that I had the mentality of a teenager during that time.
Were you on drugs or alcohol?
No, sir, I wouldn't. I occasionally used a little marijuana, drink sometimes for recreational purposes, and that was all.
Now, you came to prison in when? How long you been to jail? You said 22 and a half years. When did you actually come to jail? Did you get out after you got arrested?
No, sir, I've been in prison since August the 4th, 1999.
All right. Now, I note that in December of 99, you were charged with simple escape. Tell me about that.
Yes, sir. They was threatening me with an excessive sentence.
They were what? Say it again.
They were.
Can you pull your mask down?
They were telling me that I was going to possibly get a severe sentencing of 40 years or more, and I kind of got scared. And it wasn't that I really wanted to escape justice, but I didn't know really what to do and how to respond to it any other way. And someone offered me a way out, and I thought I would take it, but it didn't happen.
Well, what was the way out?
We were just supposed to, like on the way to court, at a court hearing, we were supposed to leave out of the back of the van and meet up with someone, but like I say, there was nobody ever there. So.
Well, did you get out? I mean, why did they charge you with it?
Well, they charged me with it, but I never was convicted of anything else.
I hear you. I want to know what you did. Did you get out of the van? Did y'all get out of the van? Did you?
Yes, sir. We got out of the back of the van and we run to a car wash right down the road from where we got out because there was supposed to be someone there to meet us, and there was no one there. So I just sit down next to a building and just waited for somebody to come find me because I knew that's what was going to happen.
You do have law enforcement opposition. You've got victim opposition here. There's nothing you can do about that. Tell me where you're going to be living if you were to parole out.
There in Marouge, Louisiana.
Is that with your mother?
Yes, sir.
Okay, who lives there with your mother?
My stepfather.
Okay. And where did this incident occur at?
In West Carroll Parish, Oak Grove, Louisiana.
How
Good.
far is that from Marouge?
I couldn't say 30, 40 miles maybe. I'm just guessing.
What kind of work are you going to be doing?
Well, my sister-in-law works in the restaurant business, and I've got like 4 years experience in that. I'm still a certified technician for manufactured housing. Also, I've got carpentry skills that I had before I come to prison. Now, since I've graduated VOTEC here, I've added cabinet making and furniture building to my repertoire. And so I hope to do something like that. I've had no contact.
Do you have children?
Yes, sir.
How many children?
5 children.
How old are your children?
My oldest one is 46, I believe now, and then I got one 44, one 31, and one 28.
Okay. Are you currently married?
No, sir.
And when you committed this crime at age 38, 39 years old, were you working?
Part-time, yes, sir, I was.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was working in the manufactured housing. Things had slowed down a little bit, and it was a little difficult because of being a contractor. I would have to wait on receiving my money from jobs I performed.
How did y'all pick this particular lady to go rob?
My ex-wife received the information from her grandmother and knew that she had kept money in the house.
So your ex-wife was involved in this too?
Yes.
Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, sir.
She get arrested?
No, sir.
Warden, what can you tell us about Mr. Jesselink?
Okay. He's done really well at David Wade. He's been here since 2013. He has never had an RVR. He works as a library clerk in our library, which is a very limited number of people are allowed to work in there. So he not only works in the library checking out books to other offenders, he does he takes our library cart down to our lockdown units and makes sure that those offenders get library books. He's done very well in all of the programs that he's participated in that he went over with you a while ago. And really, he's just been a model inmate while he's been here.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay, do we have any other questions? Do we have any visitors, Ms. Teresa?
No, sir.
All right. Mr. Jesselink, is there anything you would like to tell us before we vote?
Yes, sir. I would like to say this much, that when I was living out there in the world, I knew I had done wrong and I was acceptable for a punishment. Because it turned out that I was actually a bad son. I wasn't the greatest sibling, and I definitely wasn't a good husband or a good father to my children, and I wasn't a good citizen either. But I know now if y'all would consider even granting me the opportunity to not only be reunited with my family, that I could prove myself to be a better son, to be a better sibling, to be a great husband when I get remarried, and to be a wonderful father. And I know that I can be an active member in society with the skills that I've obtained throughout these years of my life here in this controlled environment.
Thank you very much, sir. Panel ready to vote? Okay, I'll go first. Mr. Jesselink, I'm going to tell you, I'm really on the fence here. I mean, you've done real well. I do see that you've done well while you've been in prison. You indicated that you smoked a little bit of marijuana, you drank it a little bit. The reports suggest that you were drinking at the time this offense was committed. So tell me what your plan is for staying sober.
Well, sir, not only have I been sober all of these years, I never was much of a drinker anyway. When we drank a few beers that night, it was just to try to hype ourselves up to do what we did. And I've always been able to control any type of substances or anything like that, because like I say, I never was an alcoholic or a drug user.
Mr. Jesselink, the facts of this case really concern me.
Yes.
But it was a long time ago. And it appears that you are a different person than the man was, even though it wasn't a child. The man was back when you were 38, 39 years old. You've done a lot of positive things while you've been in prison. You tried to escape, but again, that was a long time ago as well. You've explained that to me. You do have law enforcement opposition. You have victim opposition. You've done some good things, living in balance, celebrate recovery. And I'm especially impressed by the fact that you had no write-ups in the whole 22 years that you've been in prison. Based upon the comments of the warden, as well as all of those things, I'm willing to take a chance on you. My vote today would be to grant your parole with conditions that you be on a curfew from 6 p.m. to 9 a.m., that you get a substance abuse evaluation, follow whatever treatment is recommended, that you report to your parole supervisor for weekly for at least the first 90 days, and that you do 6 hours of community service work per month. That would be my vote. I'm only one of 3, so we'll sit back and see what the rest of the panel votes. Ms. Jackson?
Mr. Jesselink, I kind of have some of the same concerns as my colleague. This was a terrible crime. And the information that we had was that the victim in this case suffered some injury to her hand from being hit on her hand by a crowbar. Her son said that his mother lived about 10 years after this, and that she lived every single day of her life in fear because of what you did. But we also have to look at the last 22 and a half years. You have a low risk score. You've had no write-ups at all in 22 and a half years. You have a good institutional record. You've enrolled in a lot of courses. You've completed some vocational education. You've taken living in balance and anger management. You started victim awareness. I don't know if you finished it. I'm willing to give you a chance today as well, Mr. Jesselink. My vote would be to grant because of your low risk score, your lack of any write-ups, and the programs that you've taken. So that's my vote.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Wise?
I'm gonna be honest, this is a hard one for me because of this crime. That as I read through this crime all the way through, and I've seen some of the things, you got strong opposition from the judge and all law enforcement. Also victims, strong. I think you're doing good at this time. I think there's a few more steps you need to take at this time. I'm gonna be voting to deny.
All right. We have 2 votes to grant and 1 vote to deny. Does this require a unanimous vote?
Mr. Jesselink, have you completed GED or anything equivalent to that?
Yes, ma'am. I've completed the GED program and the VOTEC.
How about pre-release?
What is it? No, ma'am.
Mr. Marabella, he would be denied.
All right. You have 2 votes to grant and 1 vote to deny. Your parole is denied today. Good luck to you, sir.
Right.
He's enrolled in pre-release. I don't know if that makes a difference with the majority vote or not, but it's not completed, but he's enrolled. It will be completed.
Mr. Marabella, you would have to do it conditionally upon that completion.
All right.
If that's your
We'd have to
decision.
grant a condition.
I would vote to grant conditionally upon his release, his completion of the pre-release program. Ms. Jackson?
I've already submitted mine, but I would
Okay.
add, I would add that as well. Condition on completion of pre-release.
Staff, does that satisfy the requirement or?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You've got your parole today has been conditionally granted upon your release, your completion of the pre-release program, with special conditions, once you are released. So good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, who would have thought? I might actually agree with Jim Wise in this case. It's kind of, the technicalities. It's like, oh, well, if you finish a pre-release, that's going to make all the difference in whether or not it's going to be safe to release you into society. Now, 22.5 years, you might say, for an armed robbery is an excessive sentence, except when you hear about the violence of it. And there's something wrong. There's something deeply disturbing and wrong with you when you can do this. And we'll go through the facts. Thank you, Richard, for providing it. And when I read it, that's where my mind goes, is what is wrong with this person? And then one might say, well, how does he get 0 write-ups? Sadly, I think when you get 0 write-ups in prison, it's more of an indicator that you're kind of like a lizard humanoid or something. Like, how is it possible? But we have seen it a bunch of times, but usually it is the worst offenders that have the 0 write-ups. I don't know what it is. Now, not only was this crime horrific, but he involved like all of his family members in it. So it's, again, another source, in my opinion, of just evil. But here it is. Facts. July 29th, 1999. He and his son forced their way into the home of a 78-year-old woman. It gets worse. The whole thing lines up. He knew the woman. He worked for her. The violence was, of course, not necessary. She's 78. So the 2 men gained entry into the home after they had his son's 17-year-old girlfriend trick the victim into opening the door. So now it's the dad who brings his son and his girlfriend to do this to a 78-year-old grandma. Before entering the home, he had cut the victim's telephone line and deflated the tires on her car. Just in case they couldn't overpower her, right? They had to do that. After the perpetrators entered the victim's home, a struggle between Just Link and the victim ensued, and she was injured with a crowbar. Because that's the type of cowards they are. They bring a crowbar to rob a 78-year-old woman's home when they outnumber her 3-1. That it would even make a difference. But that wasn't enough. Then Shane pointed an air pellet pistol at the victim, which of course you wouldn't know that it was a pellet pistol, threatening her with it. Just Link and Shane coerced the victim. I wouldn't say coerced. Maybe that's a technical term, but it was her life or the combination to the bedroom safe, which she opened. They took cash. They took collectible coins. They also took firearms, a flashlight, and a cordless phone. Just Link knew the safe existed there because he had worked for the victim as as a carpenter and painter. And how terrifying is that? She hires this man. She, pays him money, and then he comes back and does that. After completing the robbery, they left the victim lying on a bed, bound and bleeding from her injuries. Now, she does sound like a true old school tough cookie. From what I heard him say, she was beating me with the broom. You heard him say that at this hearing. She was beating me with the broom. Who says that? The 78-year-old woman was beating you with the broom? You say that at your parole hearing, like you're the victim? Well, she did fight back. Good for her, right? She also got out of her bed where she was tied up and left bleeding, and she drove to her son's home to get medical assistance with her flat tires. Think about that, right? Because she couldn't have a phone to call medical assistance because of this coward. He's a coward. Someone who does crimes like this shouldn't get out. No. There's something wrong with you. He was arrested on August 4th, 1999. Although he denied any knowledge of the robbery, initially he later confessed. The state proceeded to trial on October 2000. Jesslink was found guilty of armed robbery and violation and sentenced to 40 years of hard labor without the benefit of parole, probation, suspension, or sentence. Here, we'll go through. Here. They go through different things while he was appealing, and then they give testimony from the 78-year-old victim who testified at the trial. She said, a young woman rang my bell. Remember, that's his son's girlfriend. At about 9:10 p.m. on July 29, 1999. And she said, can I use your telephone? I need to report an automobile accident. Can you imagine that? Play this scenario in your mind. Just think about this. You're at home alone. You get a ring on the doorbell, and it seems like, it's a young girl. She got in an accident, can use a phone, and maybe you have your spidey senses saying something's off here. But then again, you think, you're 78 years old. You've been living in this community and home. You're going to trust someone. You're going to do the right thing. The victim locked her storm door and went to get her portable phone. When the victim went back to the door, the two men were standing inside her house. So she thinks about it. She says, you know what? I'm going to play it safe. She keeps the door locked to go get her phone. She comes back, she turns around, and the two men are standing there with a crowbar and a gun. She's all alone. One man wore a mask. The other man had a stocking over his head. It just gets worse, right? The victim testified that Shane had a gun and that Jesslink had a crowbar. She described the length of the gun, noted that it was black in color, and stated that it was pointed at her. And she just had open heart surgery, not to mention that, right? She was scared to death and began screaming. The victim also testified that Jesslink, the man with the crowbar, tried to tape her mouth shut. She hit Jesslink's hand, then he hit her hand with the crowbar. So she hits his hand and he retaliates with a crowbar smashed to her hand. She testified that she bled all over the place. Lastly, the victim testified that she thought that the robbers would kill her. Yeah, I would think that too. Jesslink forced the victim back into her bedroom, going straight to the safe. When the victim herself cannot open the safe, the robbers coerced her into divulging the lock combination. She was afraid not to cooperate because of the gun and the crowbar. The men stole more than $1,000 in cash, as well as several purses containing collectible coins. All of that for maybe a couple grand? Really? Really? The victim testified that Shane took 2 loaded rifles from a wall-mounted gun rack and 2 loaded pistols out of a chest drawers in their bedroom. It's interesting that she kept all those loaded weapons. The victim's hands and feet were taped, and she had left on the bed and was left on the bed while the robbers fled. One of the men took the woman's purse and told her that the telephone line had been cut. In his confession, Jaslink admitted that Shane had the pistol and that he had the crowbar. He also admitted that he had hit the victim on her crowbar. Wow. Oh, I'm glad we caught this. We caught him in a lie. Remember how he said his co-defendants weren't charged? That's a lie. The trial court reviewed and considered the facts of the case. Jaslink's son received 15 years of hard labor, 10 years of hard labor and aggravated, and 15 years of armed robbery to be served concurrently. So what are you talking about? That's a lie. The victim is now afraid to stay alone. At the time of the offense, she was quite weak due to her recent heart surgery. The laceration results from the crowbar blow took several weeks to heal. The treatment for physical injuries required a 4-day hospital stay. A 4-day hospital stay. She also suffered a mild heart attack. Oh my God. The PSI reveals that in 1977, Jaslink was charged with simple burglary contributing to delinquency of juvenile. Oh, look at that. Who would have thought he got a charge? Oh, yeah. But the disposition of those charges is not reported. Jaslink had a misdemeanor conviction in 1981 for worthless checks. The defendant also faced pending charges for simple burglary and simple escape at the time of the sentencing of this offense. You see here is that this guy had all of these charges and was still out and about and free. You know, it just seems like they didn't care much about crime back then either. I know it goes through lengths where they care too much and they lock everyone up, and then, you know, it's always like this pendulum that swings back and forth without ever seemingly being able to find a median. It's like it always seems to be at one extreme or another. The trial court discusses Jaslink's personal history. He has a fairly steady work history, but claims to have committed the instant offense because he was destitute. The court found Jaslink's crime to be a serious offense, which created a highly explosive situation during which an elderly heart patient in a weakened physical condition feared for her life and was injured. The court further found that Jaslink's action manifested deliberate cruelty to the victim. I agree. Jaslink knew the victim was particularly vulnerable and incapable of resisting robbery due to her advanced age and disability. Jaslink used threats and actual violence, resulting in serious harm to the victim. Defendant used a dangerous weapon and placed the victim in fear of death or greatly bodily harm. Furthermore, the trial court found that Jaslink was the ringleader and exerted influence on Shane and Cordell, both of whom are youthful persons. There was no excuse or justification for the offense, and Jaslink showed little remorse. Still did show little remorse, in my opinion. Did he? Yeah, you know, that's a good point. What remorse did he show in this hearing? I saw none. They said that his incarceration will entail further hardship on his 2 minor children. No, they'd be blessed to not have that sorry excuse of a father. And because of those mitigating, they did 1/2 of the maximum allowed by law. They were kind to him. He faced up to 99 years. They gave him 40. Well, there you have it. Thank you, Richard, for the info again. I think we just saw 2 remorseless monsters, different type of offenses, but still both people who seem to get pleasure out of causing harm and then holding no accountability for it. Different, but similar in many ways. With that, I'll let you go.